much. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for the good introduction. This session is going to be about how we've modernized from a 9.4 on-prem platform and to SaaS via cloud managed services. Now, it's not only about migration. There's quite a bit of feedback here. Not only about the migration, but it's also about how we've put up all new work processes. It's about how we've established a new platform, also with other tools than SaaS via. And it's about how we've migrated, of course, and it's about how we've managed to get all our users, quite a big number of users, to move from utilizing the tools in SaaS 9.4 to kind of moving all their stuff and all their jobs to SaaS via. So, that's it. My name is Bendik. With me today I have Torstein and Nils Erik. Stand up, Nils Erik. He's going to be, we're going to all be a part of the Q&A session afterwards. To begin with, we're going to show one of the big milestones that we had in this project. And Torstein is the man to do the honors.
Yeah. Is this the clicker? Yeah. All right. So for you that joined us for the Spotlight, it's the same movie. But I think it is a real special moment to actually log on to Teams, have everyone from the team, both physical and digital, to join in together and ask the question. I need to start it. Yeah. And then ask everyone the question, is everything done? Is anything missing? And then hit the button, RF on Linux, and just recursively delete everything that you've been implementing for the past 2 decades. It is, you get a bit sweaty in your hands when you push enter, because that's the point of no return. But I think kind of this was also a very good way to show that milestone, so that the old is now done. There's no way going back. Now we focus only on the future. So yeah, this was very fun, and we had a great party afterwards.
Yeah, we did. Well, you can kind of you can see what's funny about these videos is you can see the smiles of relief on everybody's face, right? So this was a huge step. Now, a little bit about Posten, who we are, Posten Bring. We are a postal and logistics company who was founded all the way back in 1647. We have some $2.7 billion in revenue, small in the US context, quite big in the Nordic context. So we are one of the largest players in the Nordic logistics market. As you are well aware of, people don't send very many letters anymore. So our mail volumes has diminished over the last couple of decades, but we've succeeded in growing our logistics business, whereas we've seen the mail volumes disappear. So now we have some 81% of our revenue in the logistics segment, and only 19 left in the mail segment. Now, we've also grown, not only kind of shifted to the logistics business, but also grown to become a Nordic player from previously being primarily a player in the Norwegian market. We're now a player in the Nordic logistics market. Some 12,000 employees divided across the Nordic countries. We co-brand ourselves, both Posten and Bring. Bring mostly towards the business customers and in the Nordics. Now, you know, with 400 years of history, adaptability and the ability to change kind of lies within our DNA. We've had to done that, you can imagine, quite a lot during all these years. But I think it's fair to say that the biggest changes has occurred during the last 2 to 3 decades. When mail volumes were peaking, we had, I think, around 32,000 employees, and now we're down to 12,000. We used to have a couple of thousand post offices. Jared was talking about the postal office. In reality, it almost doesn't exist in Norway today. So we've gone from 2,000 postal offices to, I think, 20 or something. And we've kind of grown what we call post-in shops, which is small package outlet facilities in the grocery stores. So quite a big change. And I mean, we've had to completely change the way we produce and do our logistics from being a letter sorting, letter delivery company to more heavy logistics and parcel business. We've also seen, you know, all this change has been driven by digitalization, and that has also driven how we run our logistics with usage of technology and IT throughout the value chain, and kind of streamlining and automating our production. Data is, and the usage of data and analytics is at the core of our business, and we see it as a core strategic enabler to be able to drive future productivity and change going forward. And SAS has, over the years, also played a crucial part in this change with data. Actually, we started with SAS all the way back in 1999 with SAS 8 and mainframe setup, and we've modernized our setup quite a few times along the way. And now, at last, we've done this move to the cloud, move from an old on-premise 9.4 setup, and to a more modern, ready for the future SAS Via with Speedy Store. You know, the SAS 9.4, SAS 9 has served us really well over the years, but now it's kind of was enough, and there's quite a few reasons why it was enough. We were struggling with performance. We had to kind of run our night batches starting at 10 or 11 in the evening and going all the way through and breaking SLAs in the morning because it wasn't capacity enough. The SPDS solution was, database solution was, you know, slow and outdated. Our user, our users expect capacity, expects good tooling, and we weren't able to provide it to them to the extent that they wanted. We were lacking modern integration interfaces at the platform. APIs support was not there, and we were lacking the possibility to stream data real time. So quite a few we need to change signals, if you'd say. And what we what we did was evaluate, okay, how there's a few different ways you could modernize. And our kind of conclusion after we'd done an assessment was that we should modernize with SaaS and to a cloud-based SaaS via. And the reason we thought that would be kind of a great idea is that we could modernize without having to do a new build. We could migrate the code and migrate the solutions that we wanted to migrate, so we could get on a modern platform faster and with lower cost. So our kind of the wish list was to have a scalability. We wanted to have a modern and fast database solution. We wanted to have integrated and good analytic solutions, and we wanted the capability of streaming data. So kind of when we had concluded that, okay, this is the path that we wish to go, the only question was left, how do we get there? And then I kind of started thinking about this young man here, and I was asking him, are you interested in a job, Torstein?
Yeah, and yeah. So this was about the time a point in time when Benny came over, knocked me on the shoulder, and asked me if I could take on this assignment to modernize Post & Bring's platform from SAS 9 to VIA with SpeedyStore. And I mean, the basic task of it is quite big because it meant migrating 20 years, I mean, even more, 3 decades from 99 and even more of legacy, thousands of ETLs. I think we had in the beginning close to 3,000 ETL jobs that were initially in scope. They were all spread over multiple solutions. You know, every solution had its purpose, but they were interdependent. So you had a lot of how do you break that elephant and eat that elephant one piece at a time. And we had also a huge database that needed to be lifted into the cloud. And a major, I mean, the technical stuff, that's something you just need to do, but you also need to accommodate and make sure that the people, both users, but also the data management people and operations also adapt to this new platform. So it means changing the way you work, and it means upskilling and onboarding a lot of users. And the way we went about this was to have 4 work streams within the project, each focusing on its own kind of smaller area, but of course this is required a lot of cooperation. So I'll take us through each of them, mostly focusing on migration and new ways of working and onboarding, but I'll also touch on the data platform and integrations. So starting with data platform and integrations. So, you know, we've set up, Benny said it, data is core in Post & Bring's business. It's data that connects the machines that sort the packages and the parcels. It's data that becomes a notification in your app when you can go pick it up. And it's data that fuels the entire operations within Post & Bring. But I mean, you also have all these other applications within HR, finance, and transport management systems and point of sale systems, everything. And this platform integrates all of those sources into one single data platform. So it's a platform that integrates all these sources end to end and fuels various applications for consumption. We used SaaS Cloud Data Exchange to create one point of integration towards all the cloud and on-prem sources. That was initially, it took some time to get that working and understand. It was a new piece of software to us. But the good thing about it was that we then reduced the number of point-to-point integrations between source systems and VIA to many to one. So all the sources are integrated through the Cloud Data Exchange component. And that component is on the Poston cloud on Azure. So it's Poston's own Azure tenant, eating all the databases and making them available into SAS VIA. What we also have is data pipelines running. So Benedict mentioned streaming data. Operations in Poston Ring runs 24/7. And before this, they also modernized kind of their core system, enabling us and others to actually consume data live from the event hub that they set up for us to consume. So we ingest today around 10 to 14 million JSON documents every day. And we store that into Singestore. And Singestore is really, really great at transforming those JSON documents into more normalized analytics-ready tables. So that was a real innovation in terms of how Poston Ring makes data available in more or less live, or at least near to live fashion. And on the database, you'll see how the compression here is. It's pretty amazing. We currently have 80 terabytes of data, but that is compressed down to 30. So it's, yeah. On VIA, we of course use the compute engine, and we currently have around 2,500 ETL jobs, workloads running, mainly almost every day, most of them. And of course, that is, it wouldn't work unless we were able to push that down into Singestore. That also took some effort from our side to actually make work, because it's not out of the box. We initially had a lot of issues with where we saw that the data was getting transferred over to compute. But together with SAS, we were able to figure out how to solve this, and Visual Analytics is the same. On consumption, we still have ClickView, and we have some other applications as well. So that was a little bit about the platform, but now I'll talk more about migration. In Norway, we have a bit more mountains than in Texas. It's pretty flat here. We have it's a more mountainous country. And if you ever have the chance to hike a mountain, you will experience a deception. Because when you walk up the mountain, you see a summit. You think it's the one you're going to, but the true summit is behind it. So you think you're about to reach the top, but you still have a way to go. And that can sometimes be a bit demotivating, because you think you're there, but then, no, you still have some to go. And this project has been a little bit the same. So we we got financed, the project was approved, and we were ready to go. We scaled the team, launched the various work streams, and then the migration, we started to do a content assessment and try to migrate something. And that was our first full summit. So this is a while back, and we tripped. So this was the first hit in the face. I think Mike Tyson said it once, that your plan is only good and then you get punched in the face until you get punched in the face. And this was a punch in the face for us, because our jobs did not migrate as we hoped it was going to. Because our business case was based on automating as much as possible. So we wanted to, as little hands-on as possible, meaning we defined that as a perfect fit. But when we started out on this, we saw that around 20% of our code would migrate into our perfect fit category. And 20% was not enough for our business case to be true. We needed way more to go into that category. We said at least 90% of all our code has to move from no fit and custom fit into perfect fit. Why? Well, first of all, it's a migration effort, definitely a big topic, but we have to think about the total cost of ownership. So we might be able to run code, but you have poor maintenance. I mean, if all your programs are just pure code, you will definitely run into trouble when you want to change them. So we needed everything to be, as much as possible, to be in the perfect fit category. This was raised pretty high in SAS, and I think that first fall summit was kind of how we really were able to form a good relationship and a joint team and partnership with SAS to solve these issues. We wanted to solve them, and SAS also wanted to solve them, so that was the perfect goal together with them. We got a lot of attention on this, and I think that was key, both to migration. I mean, we sat down, had a workshop, and we formulated a plan, set clear KPIs on when we were okay, and we started executing. And we also had, with the executive team from SAS and also from Post and Ring, we had monthly meetings reviewing all the enhancements and new features that came into SAS Viya, so that we were able to raise more and more, be able to migrate code in an automated fashion. Even after all those, or most of those features were resolved, we continued this kind of monthly cadence on meetings, and because we ran into more trouble. So perfect, Brian Harris, he came over to Norway, we made a plan, we set some requirements. This is the things that we need to solve together. Most of the issues and most of the features were delivered. Everyone is smiling. Let's scale the team even more, because now we've lost some time, so we need to move even faster. We got the first solution migrated into SAS Viya production, which was the Fall Summit number 2. Everything looked good, but then we slipped again, and we experienced some very severe instabilities on the platform. So our solutions didn't run, we had performance issues, all sorts of problems. So this was kind of the next phase. We used the same partnership and the same team to work through the issues with cloud and SAS hosted managed service. And we were able to get all hands on deck to solve it. It's now finally smooth sailing. At the peak, we were able to migrate 350 jobs in 1 month, so more than 10 per day, which was the Fall Summit number 3. Because we decided just over summer last year that we wanted to upgrade to React, and that was a quite painful experience. So we had new issues. We again used that partnership, raised that this is not good enough, we expect more. And we actually, I think we installed around 15 patches on that version of Viya we had done. Emergency patches to fix various issues. And from there, we went to the sky. And we were able to finish everything. as you saw in the video. So it has definitely been ups and downs in this project, and we've needed to be really have some stamina to get through it. So doing this project is, I mean, there's so many things happening, both on the migration side, but also on the new ways of working, upskilling and onboarding, and a lot of stuff happening in the data platform. So we needed to really use data analytics to track this project. And that was a really good way for us to see how far have we come, where do we have issues, and try to see what we can do in order to improve in the process. And improvement was always really important to us. So I think we were successful because of three things. We were able to de-scope. I mentioned in the start we had around 3,000 ETL jobs running in SAS 9. We de-scoped around 35% of them. So we said that if there's no owner of this, then we won't touch it. We can't spend resources and money on something that won't be necessary. And we also discussed cost, set a price tag on some of them, and told the business, well, it's going to cost the company to move it or to migrate it, but it's also going to cost money to run it and have operations on it. So we really need to focus on what is important for the business to keep. As mentioned, we also did a lot of work with R&D. We worked together on improving the migration toolkit and automating testing and a lot of the various stuff to become more efficient in migration. And this is a process. We worked in a very sprint-based way together with Tata Consulting Services, who were our vendor supporting us in this. We really improved the way we worked from the first time we started until the last. And we recorded all the best practices, documented them on the way through the project. So these three things was really key to success. A bit on new ways of working. We had, I think the two major changes to us has been moving from a culture where we can do changes directly in production, fix stuff and do them in production, we're fine, it's going to be okay, to having fully Git-enabled deployment pipelines, but also really changing the way operations work. Because when you move from SAS 9, where you have complete control, complete admin access, you can do whatever you want, to hosted managed service, that's a big transition because you lose control. You have to trust your partner and you have to work with them in a different way than what you used to. So that's a big change in mindset. You have to work more with tickets, and it might take longer time than you'd like because you could maybe have done it differently if you did yourself. But focusing on the pipeline, this was a really big part of our success, both building the integrations in the way we wanted it to work. So we have 3 environments. And now everything, all the changes we do, they have to follow the process. There's no way to get your code into production without running it through our deployment pipelines. And we've used Azure DevOps to its full capacity on this. So we can, today, if there's a user story, some change needs to be done. All the commits and all the pull requests, they can be tracked to a concrete user story, and we have also a full deployment process with various approvers and processes to make sure that the code is of good enough standard. And this was, at least for Post-Spring, a major change. So then I'd like to talk a bit about onboarding and upskilling. We could have done this by ourselves and not think about the users, but that wouldn't create any value. So getting the users on board was also, I think you said it, Bendik, when we started that, we can only measure success in our ability to enable use cases and users to actually get value out of data. And we put a lot of expectations on our users. We didn't want to hold their hand. We thought more that teach a man to fish was the best way to go. It will definitely cost, because not everyone wants to fish their own fish, but you had to do it. But the way we did this was that we really started out with finding some power users that were really motivated to be part of the journey early. So we call them ambassadors within the organization. They got access almost at the same time that the rest of the data management team got access. And we used them to test various things. We had them do migrations early on. And it was really a valuable way to both get feedback early on, but also to have these ambassadors mostly, not always, but mostly talk, say positive things about the changes that were coming and the innovation that we were bringing to the table. Because the next phase was to actually start onboarding more users. I think in the first round, we onboarded around 150 users. Nothing was ready. So we said, this is the platform. You can bring your own data. There's not that much from our side you can use yet, but this is it. You can start using it. And that was also, again, a really good way to get feedback and adapt how we went about the project. Some friction, because they weren't happy, all of them, but that was the point. Then we also asked users to create courses. So we didn't create courses. We asked our users to teach the other users on how to, for instance, migrate your SaaS Enterprise Guide project. And I think not using kind of SaaS training courses, that's a good in addition, but having users from your own organization teaching your organization how to use the platform is a very good way of getting the confidence and the trust, because it's your colleagues who are training you. So we had half a year. We ran around 30, a bit more than 30 courses, and that kind of created a self-sustaining community. Then, I think I mentioned it, but we said to all our SaaS Enterprise Guide users, you have to do the work yourself. We will not migrate your SaaS Enterprise Guide project. You have to do that. And why? Well, first of all, that forces them to actually invest in SaaS Studio and SaaS Via, but it also eliminates a lot of that code that might not be really valuable because you have to do the work yourself. That was also a real success. And at the end, throughout this process, we were able to have this community where people answer each other's questions. So, and we started with a video showing us deleting SAS 9 for production. And so far, we've only had one incident because of the decommission. So only one user has said that something is wrong, and that was actually one user who forgot to migrate her SAS Enterprise Guide project. So we hit, so far we think we got all that we needed into the new platform. So some results, we've seen definitely an increase in performance. Some of them run about the same, within the same time as on SAS 9, and some of them run faster. I think the average is around 1.5, throughout the solution. I think you could improve that a lot. We could, we have done a lift and shift. We could invest a lot of time into increasing performance through, really engineering the jobs so that they use this technology in a better way. But that's a balance between cost and benefits. So currently around 1 to 2 SaaS Enterprise Guide workloads, users are saying is running up to 10 times faster, which is extremely good, because then they can do more of the value creation work. We have a huge number of commits. So we finished this around 3 weeks ago in Easter. But so far in 2026, we've had 1,100 commits to our production repo. So a lot of changes, but I think it's a proof that it actually works. And we now have 1,400 users onboarded. I think the latest numbers were we had around 2,700 user-created workflows running in production now. And they are actually running. In 1 month, we have around 80,000 workloads running, and 35,000 of them are user run. So it's we've actually been able to get all these users with us on a journey. And 1,400, that's a big number, because it's 10% of the company. We have 12,000 employees, so that's a lot. And users are saying to us that finally we can cut out the middleman and the PowerPoints. Now we use SaaS Visual Analytics in really interesting stuff they're doing on some of the kind of performance management part. Quickly on the end here, so data migration is really painful, especially when you change it's a big technology shift going from SPDS to SingleStore. You run into so many issues with data formats and collation settings and going from Latin to UTF-8, and there's a lot of pain in that process, but it's possible. And we also experienced pretty soon that we were lagging behind on integrating on all our sources. So moving from on-prem to cloud, we had to change completely our networking to actually reach those sources. We saw that if we had descoped, we would not have been able to have a successful project. So that was also key. Getting all the users onboarded before or in parallel while we were actually doing migration work was also, we could not kind of have them get on board after we were finished. We had to do it at the same time. And I'm not saying we were going to give up, but it sometimes felt like we were hitting the wall a bit too much. But we didn't give up, and it really helped to have SaaS on board. So, like some other famous people in this country often say, thank you for the attention to this matter. And I think we're okay to take some questions if anyone have any.
Hear me? Yeah, no, I can hear myself. You mentioned that some things were not very stable after the second, during the second summit. Can you mention exactly what was not stable and which version you were running? Like more information about that, if you.
It depends on a cloud managed solution. So we had a lot of upgrades, and after upgrades, a lot of hot fixes we had were not present. It was about the workload management to get it to scale properly. So a lot of different things. We were a little bit early, one of the first customer with single store on the hosted platform. We even have Airflow doing the workload management. So all of these components working together was also a part of making it more difficult.
Hello? Okay. How did you migrate all of your, it looked like SPDS data sets, SAS data sets to single store, or did you call it into CAS and kept your storage either on an S3 or on-prem? How did you guys approach that?
We migrated everything first to text files, and then copy them to blob storage on our tenant, and then we transfer them into single store. Because we had a lot of data, short time doing it, so the transfer rate to have that to be able to do it in a short time, because we have also, it wasn't mentioned, but Posten have been moving all of the systems to cloud. So we'll be shutting down at the on-prem data center. So we had a shortage of time, because when we shut down the 9.4 platform, we didn't have more time to be on that platform. So we had to move the data somewhere, and we have high speed up to our own tenants doing the express route. So that was a lot faster than trying to transfer something directly to the SaaS tenant from on-prem.
And you converted it to Parquet, or what, just text
flat
files?
files,
Okay.
and then we used AC copy to move it to, we looked into tools on Azure to move data. Was not recommended because we have so short time. So that was the only thing we tried to do. And when we first were able to do it, and we saw that, okay, finally have the speed that makes us copy all the data before we have to shut down. So that was a good thing.
And you know, I think the overhead of converting into Parquet on SAS 9 wouldn't be worth it. If you move it to blob storage, it's ingesting that into single store is extremely fast and very easy.
And I have to mention that old platform, it was we couldn't scale anymore because the hardware was obsolete. And if you look at the servers, the grid servers, we have 8 of them, but they were so small in size and memory and such. So all the data were in a IBM scale. So that was the fastest thing we could do to be able to migrate the data.
Thank you. Question is, why single store? What made you choose single store? You have other simple cloud solutions that you can go for Azure, Synapse, or GCP BigQuery.
Yeah, good question, but we did this decision 5 years ago. We did the assessment 5 years ago, and then we were working with Microsoft and also with SAS, and they worked together, coming up with a solution. And they didn't have things ready at that time. And for our purpose, that was the best fit.
Just to add on to that, so we have two things. One is the SAS Speedy Store, and then the single store is actually the third-party database. So is that Speedy Store creating another layer of connectivity in between from going SAS to single store?
This is the Speedy Store. We have been working. So this is delivery from SAS on the same platform. We could have had it as a separate one, but this is part of the delivery from SAS that they now call the Speedy Store. And one of the issues as well during the migration was with the SAS Connect to to connector. It was not good enough when we started, so we had a lot of those issues with processing happening on compute because the SAS code was not supported in single store, and that gave us also some of those instabilities and performance issues.
How long did it take to complete the migration from the inception till you
So
were-
I think you can measure that in two ways. And we started the migration project in 2022. But that was the time we realized that we weren't going to we wouldn't be able to migrate as fast as we'd like to, because we were, as Eric mentioned, very early on, so things weren't ready. But when we both got through, we had all the features that we needed, so we could automate the migration progress through migration toolkits, and we had a stable platform, things were going extremely fast. So I think we had, on the slide, we had 350 jobs in 1 month. And basically, we completed the whole migration, or at least 90% of it, in around 8 months. Maybe a little more, 8 to 10 months. We did the main part of the work. And that's a huge data warehouse. Yeah. And on people, we had a great team of consultants from Tata Consulting Services working offshore and onshore. And over that, we had around 30 full-time employees in the project, working continuously on migrating jobs.
You know, I think it's fair to say that we've paved the way for quite few other customers of SAS now. So whenever you go on to a migration effort, so please to have us in your mind and send a little thank you.
Yeah, because remember, when we started this, none of those consultants were actually familiar with the tools, with the new tools. So first part of it was actually learning the VIA tools, adapt to SAS Studio from DI Studio. That's it's a work in itself. And when we first started, you tried to migrate, and a lot of your objects didn't migrate. So that was the first fall summit.
Did you migrate any flows from LSF to Airflow?
Yeah, we did. All of them that was in scope.
How was that migration?
We had to learn a new tool. We had to learn that connector. We had to learn how to get it to run with the correct compute context, and a lot of things, but it's working fine. And that is also the things we have had stability issues when we put all of the users on and all of the workload, because we had to learn the workload, because you have to use and define compute context for what you actually are doing on the platform.
Was there a tool to migrate those workflows, or did you have to manually do it?
I mean, we used the migration toolkit for that, so that kind of brings you up to, at least for our case, I think around 80% of the work was done automatically through the migration toolkit. But then we had to do some tuning, because we needed, for instance, all the transformation, or as many as possible, to actually be in database. And that's a manual process. Maybe you need to add some work tables, and so to actually get adequate performance.
Yeah, but it's been rather good. When we started, we had a small MVP running to actually test that the way we used LSF was actually possible to do in Airflow. And we had a lot of help from SAS on the initial setup.
Thank you.
And when you're talking about all the different parts of the solution, the last hurdle we had was when we were supposed to migrate IBM MQ. There was no MQ client on the Wire platform, so it was not able to do that. So we had to to set up a workaround with a MQ forwarder on our Azure tenant, and then use Python libraries on the Wire, and that's working very good. But that was the last setback.
Yeah, but that was done. We finished the last one like 20 hours before we deleted the rest. So it was really, really close to finish, but we made it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.